In the Chalbi Desert, with Capital in the Morning.
With David McKenzie from CNN.
They just have passion for the storytelling. Strangers in the night, exchanging glances.
You've visited a lot of places in South Africa. What about here?
I've visited all over Kenya. I've been in Nairobi, obviously a great deal. Western Kenya, Kisumu, the coast, northern Kenya, Turkana. So we're really privileged in this job to go to places that you know, not everyone can get to go to, and meet people that are extraordinary. And it's not always about meeting the presidents and the leaders and the activists. It's about just ordinary people we meet on the road, you know, sitting having a bit of nyama choma on the side of the road. Striking up a conversation. Kenya is one of the most sort of welcoming places, just as friendly as a foreigner, as an African. We can go sit with our camera on the side of the road, myself and Fabian, our cameraman who's from Rwanda. You know, we can sit and you know, chew the fat, as it were, with anybody, and everyone has an opinion. And I think that's one extraordinary thing about Kenya is people here, more so than South Africa, are really tapped into what's going on. They know what the news is. And I'm not talking just about people who are living in Nairobi and are considered sort of the elite of the country. No matter where you go, if it's a small village, someone will tell you something about the news you don't know as a professional. So I think that's the people rather than the locations is what's best about this country. And also CNN is watched a lot here, so you know, no one's ever afraid of pointing out something.
I remember you played a very pivotal time, especially when the World Cup was coming to Africa. I've been watching you on CNN every other day and talking about the different countries and doing all this analysis and all that. How was that for you, by the way?
Oh, it was fabulous. I think everyone kind of misses that time of the World Cup. There was so much optimism about Africa, about, you know, this is our time. South Africa, you know, hosted it, but really it was Africa's World Cup, and people, I think, felt that way. And what we did, we just, in the lead up to the World Cup, we're just kind of tapping into how people are excited about this, particularly seeing whether, you know, Kenyans, East Africans were excited. I remember we went to a tour company that, you know, fitted out these big transport vans that took Kenyans all the way down to the World Cup, through all the countries as a kind of journey to the World Cup. And then, as you remember, maybe when we were there, we were in like this Winnebago, myself, Fabian, and a producer, and spent 6 weeks driving around South Africa. You know, I could do without, you know, sharing a bed with my mates or and staying at hostels in your old university. But you know, outside of the physical difficulty, it was absolutely fabulous. I think that my favorite part of that whole trip was there was this granny in Eastern Cape who was this expert on Xhosa culture. Can you guys do the click?
I can't do the click.
That's pretty close.
I can't do it at all.
Well, I mean, if your listeners try, if you go out the side of your mouth, that's how you say Xhosa, Xhosa. And then
how do you say how are you in
you did it perfectly.
Oh no!
No, but basically another good one to try is it's a type of local drink, not quite a shanga, but very sort of mild beer. It's called Mqombothi. Come on, Charles, you can
do that, Charles.
Hey, he's a local.
In the middle. Okay, so now let's get into some technical details. If you had to have a last meal, where would you have it, what would you have, and who would you have it with?
I'd have it with my wife Sarah, who is just the best friend and love of my life, and I'd have it, this is a good one. I think I'd have it on Table Mountain in Cape Town. And what would I eat?
What would you eat?
I'd have to eat a steak. It's very boring. But I'm a meat guy. Like
South Africa's very got some good meat, so steak.
Exactly. And if it wasn't someone I knew, or I mean, it wasn't a family member or my wife, I would have it with Desmond Tutu, because he's always willing to say and speak his mind, and
he's very blunt. Like when he's blunt. Why don't you allow people to come into this country?
Exactly, and people say, well, why should he sort of changes his mind on things? And I think that's in a way is a good thing. He's almost the perfect journalist because he'll always just say what he thinks and be completely independent.
You did interview Wangari Maathai.
Yes, I did, and she was such a strong and amazing woman. Very, very sad to see her go, and I have to say we were quite taken by surprise about it. But what when we did our story about her life, it was just amazing what she went through, and particularly during the Moi era in Kenya, and those shots of her, you know, being bludgeoned in the Karura forest. And you know, just imagine it. We'd have a big skyscraper in the middle of Freedom Uhuru Park.
Can you imagine?
Well done.
All right, so hobbies and interests.
Yeah, how do you kick back after hard days at work in Turkana?
Hard days and nights of
Mogadishu.
You know, just spending time with my wife, chilling out, watching sports. I'm a big rugby fan. Going to sports. The Springboks, the Kenya Sevens team. That's great. Yeah, so basically I don't really have much free time. We travel a great deal with this job, and we are working very hard most of the time. So I'm sort of in a semi-vegetative state when I'm not working because I need to relax. But you know, traveling still is what I love to do. And in Kenya, what's fabulous is that there's so many places close by to the capital where you can just get away for a few hours, a few days, clear your head. So it's a privilege to be based here.
So what is now that we know what you like doing, what's your biggest phobia?
I used to be just terrified of heights. You know, I couldn't even look out the window of this lovely building a few years ago. I think, I think the worst bit of TV I had to do was in the Dadaab refugee camp, and it's very difficult to get a sense of the perspective because it's such a huge place, but it's very flat. So we had to climb up on top of one of the water towers. And the cameraman kept on telling me to kind of stand closer to the railings.
So you managed to overcome it slowly?
Yes, just through sheer professionalism.
You have to
But you're okay now?
I'm a little bit better, yeah, but you're not going to see me climbing
can you stand at the window right now?
I can look there, that's great.
Okay, look at that.
In the Chalbi Desert with Capital in the Morning.
We have a couple of surprises up our sleeves, but before we get into that, let's ask you. Tell us something we'd be surprised to hear about you. Something surprising about you.
Well, I did say that I was afraid of heights, but we're just talking off air that I have bungee jumped in New Zealand. Never again. Never. But I felt I had to do it. Kind of, you know, shock treatment. I did a degree in psychology, so I thought maybe this is the way to kind of get over it. I think one thing people don't know about me is that in my younger years, I was quite the musical theatre type. Really? So I was in the choir, total dork, and I was singing in theatre in South Africa, and when I went to the States, tried out for a few bands, and
What's your particular brand of music?
My particular brand of singing, at that time it was like kind of old school classics. I also played the saxophone, so I did a lot of jazz. Unfortunately, I was low on work ethic and talent, so it never went anywhere.
Don't you feel like making a couple of notes for us?
Hey, I've been working too hard.
Come on.
You pick a song, I'll sing with you.
But
you need to start.
I have a theatre background. Let me see.
Strangers in the night, exchanging glances. I'm not going to do a romantic duet with my friend over here.
No. Good stuff though. Good stuff. That's a classic.
Very nice. Okay, so
yeah, I'm going to be pulled off CNN now.
It's okay. Nobody listens to us here apart from my mother. Biggest influence in your life?
Biggest influence in my life will be my parents and my family.
Right.
My father and mother was kind of always pushed me to do what I wanted, even though there were some bumps along the way. And they kind of, when I was broke in South Africa and pretty much broke in America for a while, trying to get into the journalism world, they just said, you know, just keep at it. You can always bail out at some point. But you know, they were very supportive, and I think they kind of pushed me along to where I am today, which isn't necessarily where I want to be eventually, but it's a really great place for now.
All right. So in the Chalbi Desert, we'd like to ask you, what luxury item would you take? We'll give you your water and some rice crackers.
Oh, thanks.
But what luxury item would you take if you could take one with you?
Now, what do you consider a luxury item? Are we talking like my four-wheel drive?
It could be a four-wheel drive. It could be a pillow.
I think that's a good one. I think I'll take a very decent bottle of whiskey, which is probably not very PC to say, but you know, if I'm gonna sit there with my water, it's nice to have a drink in the evening while you're burning all day.
Yeah, okay, we could go with that. Any favorite particular whiskey?
You know, I like pretty much anything that is not going to burn a hole in your stomach, so, and I take it in moderation, so it would last me a long time.
All right,
Nice.
and book. What book would you take? We'll give you the Bible and apparently Shakespeare, the whole collection, because people have an affinity for Shakespeare. But other
So
than
you
that,
got me out of that saying
what would you take?
that's an interesting one. A Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela is a fabulous book,
Nice read.
and helps one kind of get through. I think there's a book that people might not know called Birdsong. It's a fiction book by an English author about the First World War, and it's really a love story and a story about conflict and getting over conflict. And I think, you know, while there might be other books that are more profound, I think the storytelling in that book really would be something you'd want in the desert to get you through.
Do you have a favorite song? One that just, I mean, maybe
Just
your wedding song?
Play him some Kwaito from South Africa.
Yeah, we can get dancing.
You know?
It's a bit early though.
It's about time we see him dancing.
I've already sang. I've really kind of humiliated myself on national radio. I think no, I don't really have a favorite song. I have a whole bunch of favorite artists. I think you know, we were talking earlier. Redemption Song by Bob Marley is just a classic and timeless. You know, I love a whole bunch of African artists. Oliver Mtukudzi from Zimbabwe.
Right.
You know. Eric Wainaina, who I interviewed, you know, a number of his songs are also instant classics. I think, yeah, just anything that that can sort of stand the test of time, I like to listen to.
All right, and the question that everybody waits for here, our hot air balloon question. All right, listen carefully. You got three lovely ladies in the balloon. None of them, regardless of their status in reality, are married. None of them are with anybody, and they have no power to harm you. But in the hot air balloon, you have Aisha Sase, Monita Rajpal, and the lovely Julie Gishuru. You have to throw one of the lovely ladies off. You have to kiss one of the lovely ladies, and you have to marry one of them. Remember, even in this instance, you're not married, and your wife cannot hold this against you. So you got Aisha Sase, Monita Rajpal, Julie Gishuru. Throw, kiss, marry.
I'll kiss Julie because you know, I'm based here, and you know, we've got to go local is lekker, as they say in South Africa, which means local is nice.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, I think Aisha I'd throw off because Aisha can do anything. She'd fly. She'd fly.
Why?
Yeah.
Aisha Sase.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, you know what?
No.
Aisha's a sweetheart, and she's doing so amazingly well. She's doing, people probably don't see it, but she does the news break-ins for our main primetime show in the US now and in South Africa, which I think everyone should be watching every weekend.
On the weekend, I see.
Exactly,
her, yeah.
and as well as backstory now. So, you know, she's just flying high. I don't think she needs a balloon to keep her up there. I'm going to marry Monita. She's also a sweetheart and a fantastic journalist, and I talk to her live all the time.
Very
and
nice.
yeah, you could do worse than Monita Rajpal. So I think
I think a lot of the guys in the studio would agree with you. I can see Danny grinning from ear to ear. Yeah, that's the way forward. Right, so your song of choice, Brenda Fass's Vulindela, coming up. But before we play that, any final last words as to anything on your mind that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think one thing you haven't asked me, and one thing people do ask me on the street is, you know, how do you get going in the journalism world? How do you make it in a career? We have, you know, people coming to want to do internships at CNN all the time. Unfortunately, we're such a small office, we can barely, you know, employ ourselves. What I say is just have passion for the storytelling. That's what should come first, and the career will come naturally. I think people should go out there. There's so many venues where you can write, you can do things on Twitter, Facebook, blogging. There are ways to get your content out there for free, and then people will notice you. And there's such a vibrant world of media here in Kenya, much more so in many ways than South Africa. You've got all your great radio stations like Capital, you've got fabulous news networks here as well, and really quality journalists. So I think, you know, get out there, don't be afraid, push the limit, and you know, the best advice is to be both passionate and fearless.
Great, awesome.
Nice.
It's been a pleasure having you in studio. Thank you so
Really.
much for coming. Feel free to come back whenever you want.
Hey, have me anytime.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
On the air.
3 minutes to the top of the hour, some
Pleasure.
Brenda Fassi.
Really honored to
Thank
meet
you.
you, sir.
Pleasure.